Hello everyone, I am Nikki with Fulfill Your Legacy.
Tim Breen, First Reformed Church, Orange City, and we've just been talking about a couple of the projects that we're up to these days. I started a YouTube channel for some of the videos that I've been working on and sermons I've preached, and you've got a lot of
and
stuff.
Your blog.
And the blog, tellusblog.com.
Yeah, really great. Yeah, and I am with Fulfill Your Legacy. I have a lot of fun things happening there. Go check out both of those. They're great ways to get goodness into you. All right, so let's go ahead and get to Core40 Week 21. This is exciting because we're moving now into the community of Jesus.
Yeah, we're in the second half of Core40 now, and the community of Jesus phase or theme that we're doing here looks at what happened with the followers of Jesus after Jesus departed. And so we're going to get to the kind of the departing of Jesus in just a couple of weeks here, but what we need to do before we can get to that point is understand what made the early church tick. What did they really believe? What were they certain of? Why would they keep doing this stuff even though their leader was no longer with them? What were their convictions and their passions that kept them going forward? And to do that, we're going to look today at this really interesting conversation between Jesus and his disciples, and especially with Peter, who we've talked about before, from Matthew chapter 16.
Yeah, I really like that they were informed to kind of take two things to heart, you know, and we'll get to that in a minute, but it's also making me think of the world today, because I know, you know, we're in a small community, but I have listeners from all over the place, and I know in general, you know this, that people are attending church less than ever. And when we stop attending church, then we're not hearing the word. So then our clarity on what's true and not true is more distorted. And then we start craving God again. So there's a lot of pop-up churches. Yeah. And there's a lot of people trying to almost make their religion, make their church. Yeah. And it's with the right heart, but there's some messages here in how Jesus is saying, go do this. Yeah. And so let's get into that a little bit. And
yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that you pointed out, because right now, there's as many people going to church as ever before, but for them going to church means 2 Sundays out of 4, or 3 Sundays out of 5. And there's more denominations than ever. There's more congregations than ever. More and more new kinds of congregational experiences are happening. Some that involve just casual attendance.
Some are just music.
We talk about boutique churches. So if you live in the right community, you know, within a 10-minute drive, you have your choice of all kinds of churches. Now, I think what we're getting at there is that certainly not in every case, but in some cases, the reasons that people take some Sundays off from going to church or decide to start a new church is because their experience of church is not, let's be blunt, it's not exactly what they want.
I get that.
They want something a little bit different. They want a shorter message. They want a different style of music. They want the worship time to be
We're
later
used to
in the
getting
day.
what we want.
We're used to getting what we want. And in Matthew 16, one of 2 things that Jesus makes very, very clear is that following him and being a disciple of his has very little, if anything, to do with getting what you want. There's a lot in other places about getting what you need, but it's not about getting what you want. There is suffering. There is going to be heartache. There is going to be a cost. Count the cost. And so when the early church began, there's persecution. First from Jewish synagogue leaders, then from the Romans, and people are like, is this worth it? There's going to be a cost. There's a price tag, and the value that's on that tag might even be my own life. And so they had to understand that there is something highly consequential and not easy and not customizable, so to speak, to use our language, about being a follower of Jesus. There's a game plan. Deny yourself. Take up your cross. Follow him.
That's really good. I don't know why I keep correlating this to today, because even today, if we want to stick to the truths and kind of the fundamental of what church is about and supposed to be about, and what is written for us, we're going to have to deny ourselves. It's going to be uncomfortable. We are going to be persecuted, even in today's time. That's coming back in a new way.
prosperity gospel we sometimes talk about. You do the right things and you will be blessed financially,
Yeah.
you'll be blessed medically. And there's just
Not always.
there's a whole lot of but in that one with Jesus.
Okay, so that's all great. I get that. Now, how is it that they were able to do this even though there was persecution? What, like, that assurance that it will work?
Yeah. And that's where the other C comes in. So we have cost, first of all. And when, by the way, when Peter tries to talk Jesus out of paying the price Jesus knew he had to pay, Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan." But there's another conversation with Peter that comes to the C word, confidence. Confidence where Jesus says, "The gates of hell will not prevail against the church that I'm building on this rock." And so the church took these words, and the people reading Matthew's gospel said, the battle is hard. These days are difficult. My family's in prison for believing the gospel. My son was thrown to the lions for believing the word. Life is hard. We're called to give away things to the poor. We're called to minister to people who are infirmed, and that means that we might become infected too with the same plagues. All that stuff is true, but in the end, the gates of hell will not prevail. In other words, if even hell can't stop the church, nothing else can as well. So there's a cost, but then there's confidence. Jesus has victory in the end, and we are part of the winning side, the victorious team when we're following Jesus.
I really like that. I see that we maybe have 3 minutes. I want to bring up something else. Okay, so you made reference of, you're going to have to do some things maybe that you don't want to do, and us sort of wanting this easy way of following God. But it's so compelling for me how you can desire and want are kind of different. I want us to think on that for a minute, because I have many things that, of course, I've wanted, but then as I've gotten closer to God, my desire for Him overcomes all that, and it changes. What you once wanted. And so I just think these people had to have been so focused on, all of them, on this path and this desire with a deep faith and understanding what's true and right, that those sort of things fell on the wayside. There was just so much power in this.
They felt, the early church, that they were becoming united with Jesus. And what that meant was that they started to want what Jesus wanted.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at.
They started to desire what Jesus desired. Instead of having, this demand for earthly, material, temporary stuff, the more they read about Jesus, the more they learned about Jesus, the more they fell in love with Jesus, the more their desires aligned with Jesus. And I think that's a sign of spiritual maturity as well, to want what Jesus wants for the reasons that Jesus wants them.
That's what we want for everyone. All right, let's go ahead, because I'm excited for week 22. We will see you next time on Core 40.
Beautiful.